Hello, movie patient, and welcome to Film Therapy. I'm Brianne, also known as Miss Movies, also known as your film therapist. I am not a real therapist, but I play one on the internet for this show. And as with every session of film therapy, I always have a guest patient, and that guest patient today is William Bibbiani. Welcome. Come on over. Come take a seat. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, William.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is a pleasure to have you here.
Yes, you make me feel very comfortable and safe.
Oh, that's good. I'm
I'm gonna-
glad. I'm
I'm
going
gonna
to
tell
turn
you
up your mic just a
everything.
little
Okay.
bit. I forgot to tell you that when you move your head, you have to move your mic,
Yeah.
and you want to keep it close. And Randall Sands is here. Randall Sands is always here.
Hi, Randall.
Thanks
You're
for being
nice.
here, Randall, in the waiting room, as I call it. So yeah, this is Film Therapy. It's a storytelling show where I'm going to ask William 3 questions. They're the same 3 questions each time. What is a film that inspires you? What is a film or a scene from a film that triggers a memory for you? Perhaps it's painful, maybe it's happy. And what is a film that helps you through difficult times? But before we get into that, I want to know a little bit about you, just in case. There might be people that don't know who you are, William.
Who?
I don't know. I don't
Who
know
are you? Who
Who
know
would
not the
that
biz?
know?
No, yeah, absolutely. What do you want to know?
I
You're
want to know.
my therapist. Ask me
Okay.
questions.
Well, I want to know, what you do, how we know each other, um, all that great stuff.
Well, let's start with that. I'm a film critic. I am a film critic. I'm also the editor of all the film related content at craveonline.com. I host the B Movies podcast, which is on iTunes and Podbean and all that other great stuff. And that's where we review movies. We talk about movie news. We have a bunch of celebrity guests. We just had the writers from Deadpool on. We just had the executive producers of Voltron on that show. I also co-host the podcast Canceled Too Soon, in which I and my co-host Whitney Seibold review television series that lasted 1 season or less. This week, we've got a show about Donald Trump buying a haunted castle in the Caribbean and teaming up with a ghost pirate to solve crimes in a sci-fi superboat.
Wait, this is real?
That's a real thing presented by the Disney Channel. Well, actually, The Wonderful World of Disney, which I think was on ABC
yeah,
or
ABC.
NBC. And co-produced by Stephen J. Cannell. He may know as the creator of the A-Team and 21 Jump Street, and also created by Glenn Morgan and James Wong of the X-Files and Final Destination fame. Lasted 7 episodes in 1991. It is insane. So that's a fun episode. So there's
Is that a weekly show?
My show or this one
The-
Girls Black Guy Savage?
No, your show about shows that were canceled too soon.
It varies. We started off as a bi-weekly show because it takes
Okay.
a while to watch
I was
a
gonna
lot of
say.
episodes. But what we discovered is actually there's a pretty decent treasure trove of failed pilots. Then
Okay.
it doesn't take that long to do that. So for a
Mhm.
while we've been weekly. We're going to move on to a bit more of a bi-weekly format for the near future, because we really want to be able to catch up and do longer shows. A lot of the shows we've been doing only lasted maybe like 7, 10, 12 episodes. It'd be nice to be able to do like a 22 episode hour-long dramatic series, but
Right.
we're both, we both have day jobs. It takes time, and we're not getting paid for Cancel Too Soon. That one's just our labor of
Yeah,
love.
I know about not getting paid for things.
Yes,
Pretty much everything I do.
Such is the way of it. But that's a fun show, and that's also on iTunes and Libsyn. That one as well. That's cool. And I think a lot of people probably know me from my appearances on shows like Press Play with Madeline Brand on KCRW, or What the Flick on the Young Turks Network, where we review movies and TV, and more recently on the Schmodown, where I have been labeled the Beast.
Yes.
And I had one really, really, really great game, and one game in which I got a lot of crap questions. So it was
That's
kind of
how
brutal.
it rolls, guys.
The
And that's
wheel,
how
the
we know
wheel's a
each other.
killer.
This is how we know each other. The Schmodown has opened many friendships for me, so I'm thankful for that.
It's been nice, and they invite they invite us to like come see shows that we're not specifically a part of, and
you
we
were
get
at
them.
my match, and then I
Yes.
answered something, and I saw your face, and I was like, I know it's not the answer.
It was the Blade Runner question, and you were
was.
so close because you got origami,
Mhm.
but it was the wrong animal, and I was like so like,
No.
oh no, like that. I just died a little inside.
I should have gone multiple choice, but I thought I knew it. So
you did. You just got
I
like the
thought I knew
tiniest
it.
detail wrong. It sucked.
That's just
That
life.
wasn't fair.
That's life.
Yeah.
You lose, you win, you move on.
Indeed. and I lost, and I plan to move on and win again, which would be nice.
Yes.
So I've been watched every episode of that show, and I log my answers, see how I do. Worst I'd ever done in any episode.
Huh.
Like, was just a bad batch of questions for me. It was really brutal.
Here's a question for you. You've been on Movie Games, is that correct?
I was on Movie Games. Yeah, I was on an episode of Movie Games.
You were with
Sasha Pearl Raver and
Okay.
Jonathan London.
Jonathan London.
Yeah.
That's right. That's the first time I saw you on Movie Games was with Jonathan London.
Yeah, I was on a team with Jonathan
Yes.
London.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
and I killed him.
Yes, he's been on. Well, he hasn't been on Film Therapy yet, but he has been on my other show, 6 Degrees of Future Film.
Well, Jonathan
yeah.
London actually gave me one of my first breaks.
Oh,
in this part of the
tell us.
industry as well. Well, I went to film school and I did a bunch of work in development and such, but I was a part of a web series called Bus Pirates. Someone keeps trying to call me. I was on a web series called Bus Pirates, and I was helping promote that. And Jonathan London invited me on his Geekscape podcast. Right. So I went on that, and while I was there, I pitched him an idea for a joke article on his website. It was around the time of the Barack Obama John McCain election, and you'll recall there was an adult movie parody called "Who's Nailin' Palin." That came out at that time, and I said, listen, I can get a copy of this movie and I can do like a really serious movie review, like a really dead serious 3,000 words, really just talk about it as a serious political screed. And it was really funny. I was rather proud of it at the time. I haven't read it since. I don't know, maybe it isn't any good anymore, but yeah, I started writing more for him, and then that led to more opportunities, and then I started becoming a film critic full-time.
I love it.
Yeah, so I owe him a lot. Thanks, Jonathan.
Yay, Jonathan.
I assume he's watching.
And Jonathan's the reason that Kevin Smith does a podcast. Did you know this?
I did not know that.
Because the first podcast Kevin Smith ever went on was Geekscape.
No kidding.
And he was like, I love this. I need to do this. I need to continue doing this.
Wow.
So thank you, Jonathan London, for putting Kevin Smith into the podcasting
world.
But
that does mean he's also responsible for Tusk, and I'm not super thrilled about that one. But that's
I'm cool with
that's
it.
Fine. That's fine.
I do want to say hello to some of those that are in the chat right now. Let's see, the Ohio Review, Zeno Hour, Darth Fuego, Jeffrey Von Gerp. I've seen you before, Jeffrey.
Hello.
And the Rain 09, yes. Brian Davids, hey, and MK Songbird. So thanks for being here in the chat, my patients that are in the waiting room. Let's go ahead and get started with our first question. And our first question is, what is a film that inspires you?
Yeah, that's a tough question because there's a lot of different ways you can inspire somebody. And when you first said that that's something we want to talk about, I really wrestled with it because there's a difference between like, how does it inspire your work, or how does it inspire your daily life or your philosophy?
That's what I like about this question, because then you could come back another time.
Yeah,
talk about different movies for every single question. I went
to UCLA for film school, and at the time,
all right, I'll see you later.
No. I just say no. My point is that this is such a great idea that it was something they actually kind of did. Curtis Hanson, director of LA Confidential, he was like president of like the film restoration group there. He briefly hosted a series of films that inspired me screenings. And I got to see like Christopher Nolan show Blade Runner and stuff, and it was really cool. So I've pondered the idea. Awesome. So my point is I pondered the question a lot. And the thing I came up with is actually two films, which I saw at about the same time and are basically the same film in slightly different genres that taught me the same lesson, and it's the reason I'm here today. The two films are The Monster Squad and The Last Starfighter.
Excellent.
Now, a lot of people know Monster Squad. Some people remember The Last Starfighter. If you were around at the time, you remember that. I'm curious if younger people really know The Last Starfighter. The Monster Squad is kind of famous for a couple of like one-liners, like the Wolfman's got nards.
Yes, that's when I was watching this, because I knew this was going to come up.
Yeah.
I don't always know that movies are going to come up, but I knew this one was coming. And I was like, I should watch that. I haven't seen it. And other people have mentioned it before, and I was like, it's time. It's time to see it. So I rented it, and then when Wolfman's Got Nards came on, I was like, that's where this came from.
Exactly.
I'm so excited.
The Monster Squad was, I think the Last Starfighter was kind of a hit. The Monster Squad, like nobody saw, and it finally found an audience on home video.
And it's kind of it has like a Goonies feel to it.
Oh yeah, well
this
is kind of the Amblin era, like the post-ET era, and there were a lot of really intelligent movies for kids about kids. and very
Yeah.
fantastical movies about kids that sort of told the story of the kid experience in a very heroic way. So there was a lot of cool stuff around that time, and my two favorites were The Last Starfighter and Monster Squad. And it took me a while. It wasn't until I was an adult that I realized why these films are so important to me, and it's because both of those films uh, explained how I got the way I am. There was this saying, it's in the Bible. When I was a child, I thought as a child, and then I became adult and I put aside childish things. You may also remember
Hmm.
it from The Crying Game.
Wow.
It's a good line. But this mentality doesn't necessarily function in today's society, because when you think about it, look at a lot of the things that we love as adults. It's nostalgic stuff.
Yes.
Uh, and
Super Mario Brothers.
Super
That's
Mario
my
Brothers, Batman was considered kid stuff for many decades, and now it's completely okay to like it. But when I was growing up, it was not. It was not. It was considered something you were supposed to grow out of. You're supposed to grow out of video games. You're supposed to grow out of comic books. You're supposed to grow out of cartoons. My parents weren't too hardcore on that, but the pervasive idea of it was all there. The Monster Squad is a film about kids who save the world because they're the only ones who have expertise in monsters, because adults don't believe monsters exist. And when it turns out monsters do exist, only the kids are capable of saving the world. The Last Starfighter is a story about a kid who becomes so good at a video game, and it turns out that the video game was actually a training simulator for an
Mm.
actual interstellar fleet of, Battlestar Galactica, Robotech, fighter pilots in space saving the universe.
So now
Um,
he can go Flight of the Navigator it.
yeah,
That's what he's
kind
doing.
of. But like the idea was that the things that you become an expert in as a child or even just as a geek, the things that aren't cool, the things that the people in that movie say you got to grow out of this,
Hmm.
have value. If you know how to apply the things that you love and make them useful and make them valuable and make them work for you, you can indeed not put away childish things. You can indeed make that your life. Um, and honestly, if you look at the films themselves, they support that idea. Here are films made about people who play video games and love monsters. Um, they were made by people who think those things are cool. Those people turned thinking monsters are cool and thinking video games are cool into a lucrative job. So my love of monster movies, sci-fi stuff, cartoons, anime, superheroes, all of that stuff that I was told was junk was useful, and I managed to create a certain amount of expertise in that, and then I managed to turn that into a career. And I'm very proud that I've been able to do that. It's very difficult to do that.
Right.
Not that I'm rich or anything like that, but I don't have to have a day job. Like there was a time when I had to do this and work at a Staples. So that's not nothing. That's actually really great. I'm infinitely happier for it. And if it wasn't for fantasy stories that told me such a thing was possible, that gave me something to root for and gave me that inspiration, I'm not sure I would have done it. I might have given up at some point and just gone into law school and been miserable my whole life.
Was that an option for you, law school?
I could have done anything. I don't know.
Well, yes.
I would not have done
your
anything.
brain is amazing.
I have no. Oh, that's very kind of you. I have no aptitude for math,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't have done anything mathematical related. But when it comes to just like talking to people, yeah, law occurred to me. I don't
So
know.
how'd you feel when you were watching Hidden Figures?
I love Hidden Figures.
Okay.
No,
You're like, math.
no, I don't have to. That's actually a good point. Like, there's a lot of things that you don't have to love something to love stories about it.
That's very true.
Here's an example. I'm not a sports guy. I actually don't really understand sports terribly. I get the gist of it, obviously, but I didn't grow up with sports. At no point did my father take me on his knee and say, "Let me tell you why we love the Red Sox," or anything like that. So when I watch sports, I can watch a game and have a good time. I have no real emotional connection. But when I watch sports movies, I'm thrilled. When you watch Rocky or Warrior, they're fantastic.
Love a good story.
Well, we love a good story. I understand what's at stake for the people. I understand what's at stake for the characters. So when they're put in a rigid competition, it really matters. And I understand why it matters. And it's cool. But if I followed sports in real life, I probably wouldn't know. I probably would understand what's at stake for this college team or whatever. Right. But I don't. And you only, I put it to you, unless you're like, have a godlike mind, you can only have expertise in so many things. I picked arts and entertainment. It's hard for me to catch up. So if I'm watching sports with someone, I just say, tell me who to root for. The blue team. Okay.
Right.
Yay, Blueies.
I used to be so good with college football, like really good. I knew like everything that was happening that year, like all the new sanctions and things like that, and rules just in general. And now that's just kind of like, all right, I don't have room in my brain for it anymore, so I just
Yeah.
kind of have to let it go. And I was sad to let it go because I followed it so much.
Yeah, no,
But
it's nice to be able to be an expert in something, and then because eventually you become an adult and you have less time to study stuff. You know,
yes,
you have to actually just do so much stuff just to get by in your day. That the day I remember when IMDb first came into existence,
me too.
because it's hard to realize, like, you know, there was a time for the younger people who may be in the audience, when if you wanted to know information about a movie, you had to go look in books, and the books were immediately out of date because new movies came out that weekend. And they were huge books, and even they didn't have as much information as you'd like. So when IMDb came out, it was like this huge, wonderful service. And in my youthful naivete, I didn't know how long this thing was gonna last. Maybe
Sure.
IMDb would get canceled. So I actually started memorizing it as much as I could. I was just
Wow.
sitting there going, okay, that's everything Orson Welles directed. Let's go to Alfred Hitchcock. Oh, Under Capricorn, I need to see that. Oh God, like
Mhm.
it was all there, but I had the time. Now I
Right.
don't. It's really hard.
Yeah, it gets harder when you have more responsibilities as an adult. You think as a kid, like homework sucks. And then you
Yeah.
realize, like, yeah, I don't have to do homework anymore, but I got all this adult stuff I got to do now.
I would rather do homework than work on my taxes any given day.
Yeah, taxes.
Being an
That's
adult,
coming up.
you know, being an adult kind of sucks, but being mature is kind of cool.
That's true.
That's what I'm discovering now that I'm in my mid 30s. You know, I'm just
Hmm.
like, I, I, I used to get really worked up over a lot of like really cheesy, geeky stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. I got nothing against, you know, getting like super excited about, oh, the new Star Wars movie is called The Last Jedi. Oh my God. You know, but now I'm an adult. I'm like, oh, it's called The Last Jedi.
Cool.
Neat. And I can
I'll
go
see it
about my
later.
day. Like, I don't
Yeah.
need to obsess over that.
Hmm.
It's kind of relaxing to
Right.
just go like, oh, it's cool. Like, oh, I don't need to think about Star Wars for the next year. You know why? Because it's coming out in December.
Right.
I get to watch it. It'll be fine. I don't have to worry about it. It's really,
Mhm.
really cool. And then every once in a while I still have to write about it. And you
Yeah.
can kind of tell my veiled disdain for having to I can call it the online speculation matrix,
Huh.
where it's just like you have to keep speculating, keep speculating, keep speculating. This stopped being news 8 paragraphs ago. And I'm not sure how much good that does. I think the speculating is more fun if it's just left to you, because the more you speculate, the more you create very specific ideas about what
Yeah.
something is, and then it becomes harder to judge it for what it actually is.
I
That's
saw
not
an
fair.
article today on IG. I think it was IGN.
Mm.
It was is Richard Kelly developing like the next Donnie Darko movie?
It
And
is he?
I was like, does this article answer that? You know,
If,
but no, it's just all speculation as
then
to
what's
is
the
he doing
point?
that? I was like, wait, this is not a story for me that I care about.
The 24-hour news cycle has been really, really terrible for the news in general, but it's especially bad for something like the entertainment industry, where obviously we're all interested. We love movies. Why are you here? It's called film therapy. Of course, you love movies, but a lot of the stuff you love about movies, you've already seen. You're excited
Mhm.
about whatever, but in order to keep the flow, the spice must flow. In order to keep the spice flowing, the spice of film news, we have to start sort of degrading what actually qualifies as news. And it's no longer this person is cast as a character in a Marvel movie, this person is in talks. That's not
Yeah,
news.
that's
That's
not
the idea
news.
that news might come to you. That's not an actual thing. That's a possibility that's being reported as a fact. And the possibility is a fact, I suppose, but we're just sort of degrading
Mhm.
what it means. So I'm glad I don't have to, in my job, do that constant stream of news.
Right.
I focus more on editorializing and podcasting and in-depth
The depth
interviews.
of film rather than the surface of film.
If I can, I mean,
Yeah.
there's always a little bit of both, but
Right.
you do what you can.
Right. The Rain 09. If the title of an article is a question, they never have the answer. Thank you. I will
Often
remember
true.
that.
Most times that's true. Or the answer is no. That's also probably true.
True.
Yeah.
Let's get into our second question.
Okay.
What is a film or a scene from a film that triggers a memory for you? Perhaps it is painful, perhaps it is happy.
You know, I think a lot of us have memories keyed into specific films that we saw like a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember seeing Predator with my dad when it came out in theaters, and I was 4 years old. It was cool.
Right.
But the film that I kept thinking about, and it was because I saw it kind of recently, when you asked me this question, was actually something I saw very, very recently, and it triggered a memory of something further back
Mhm.
because I felt that it had captured something really human and really beautiful and something that I could just totally connect to. The film is A Monster Calls, which I'm very disappointed didn't get nominated for any Oscars this year, but what are you going to do?
What do you think it would have been recognized for?
I would have loved to have seen it at least in the best adapted screenplay category
Okay.
and in the best supporting actress category for Felicity Jones.
Oh, okay. What about him?
The kid,
Mm-hmm.
it's a tough year for actor. I
Okay.
don't know if I
Okay.
would have put him in there. Maybe, I don't know, but like
Mhm.
he's wouldn't have been my top five, I think. But Monster Calls, it's based on a novel by Patrick Ness. The novel was conceived by a woman who was dying of cancer. He finished the book. The book is about a boy whose mother is dying of cancer, and he's around 10, 11, 12, not young and naive, but not wizened either. And he can't quite come to terms with everything that's happening. It's a lot for even an adult to take. So one point in the middle of the night, a giant monster, monster voiced by Liam Neeson.
Kind of looks like Groot, only scarier.
Yeah, like Groot with like fire inside him. Like it's really creepy. He comes to the kid and says, I'm going to tell you 3 stories. And in the end, you are going to tell me your nightmare. And you kind of start seeing where this is going. Oh, he's going to tell these stories, and they're going to be sort of uplifting, cheerful parables. The stories are actually messed up. The stories are
They
actually
are
like,
not. Yeah.
they do not go where you think. They offer odd moral and ethical lessons that you kind of want to debate when you're watching it. But what you realize as the film is going on is that it's all about teaching someone, a young person in particular, or just anyone who hasn't had to deal with a close death, how to cope. My father died about 3 years ago. And although people I had loved and cared about had died, and no one I had really been super close to had died. And I'm very fortunate for that fact that I got through out of my childhood with both my parents and everything. I'm very happy about that. But it left me completely unprepared for the emotional whirlwind of my father being diagnosed with cancer, finding out he only had about a month left, and watching that happen.
All within as soon as he was diagnosed.
He was diagnosed, and he died maybe slightly more than a month later, like a few days
Whoa.
later.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it was horrifying. It was confusing. We had to navigate all the practicalities of it,
Mhm.
in addition to just dealing with our horrible emotions and trying to deal with his emotions. And I knew what he was
Right.
going through. I was there when he was told, and it was just the most devastating thing for me. But then, oh my God, it's the most devastating thing for him. And it's this horrifying miasma of caring about someone else and wanting to sacrifice everything to be everything they need while caring about yourself and what you're going through and your own
Right.
pain. A Monster Calls understands that in a way that I think very few films about grief and dying do. They understand
Mhm.
the guilt and the shame that comes from caring about yourself and caring about somebody else at the same time. I ended up I was already in therapy, but I was in therapy for at least like a year after that, just trying to come to terms with everything that did to me. And A Monster Calls conveyed it in about 2 hours. Like it really just got to the point in a way that I thought was very
Mhm.
emotionally honest and complicated, but I think relatively easy to digest. And it wrecked me when I saw it. It was a blubbering mess. The scene in particular in this movie, it's the second to last scene Felicity Jones has with the young boy. Felicity Jones plays the mom who is dying of cancer. And he doesn't know how to respond to her. He's very angry. He's very upset. He's mad at the world. He's mad at himself. He's mad at her. And this might be one of the maybe even the last time they'll ever talk to each other.
Right.
And that he's going to wish he'd been better. He's going to wish he'd said
Mhm.
something more reassuring. He's going to wish that he had listened to her more. And she looks at him, and I'm paraphrasing because I saw it the one time. It's in theaters still. She looks at him and she just says, no matter what happens here right now, I love you. I care about you. I forgive you. Everything. We're cool. And I didn't really have a moment like that with my dad.
Mhm.
And as a matter of fact, I was so devastated. That whole month is a blur for me. I can't remember the last thing my dad told me. Like I can't remember the last words that came out of his mouth to me. I wish I could.
Mhm.
Maybe they were deeply meaningful. Maybe they were a dumb joke. He told a lot of dumb jokes. Um,
As dads sometimes
he
do.
had the best dumb jokes. Oh my god! On his deathbed, he was making dumb jokes. It was fantastic. What a wonderful man. But it was something that I feel like if I ever die and I'm on a deathbed and I know it's coming, it's something I will need to tell somebody
Mhm.
that it's okay. Everything going on right now, everything with you, everything between us, we're cool. Because
Yeah,
otherwise you wonder and it's horrifying.
you do wonder.
Yeah.
I've, I mean, I want to share something, but it's hard because like, I mean, I started this show because I suffer from depression too, and I suffer from like suicidal thoughts.
Oh man.
And that for me, I kept secret for 17 years.
Wow.
And
That must have been horrible. I'm
it
so
was.
sorry.
Here, let's bring this up.
Oh,
A little
sorry
bit.
about that.
That's all right. Um,
Always the technical aspect.
it took till like a doctor. I went to a doctor and I was like,
Mhm.
the last question you want to say is like the big
Mhm.
one. And I was like, yeah, so I have suicidal thoughts. And he's like, all right, he like stops what he's doing and
Puts down the pen.
yes.
Yeah.
And he just said, how long have you been having those thoughts? And I said, since I was, 17 years old. And he's like, and how long have you been on birth control? And I was like, since I was 17 years old. And he's like, well, let's write this problem because this is probably why
Mhm.
this is happening. So like I ended up getting off of that and I do go to a therapist now.
Did that help?
Yes,
Oh
I
my god.
don't have
Okay,
it
that's
as
great.
much, but I
Yeah.
still have it.
Mhm.
And the last time that I had a suicidal thought, and mind you, I've never entertained suicide, meaning like I've never like got a knife out or done anything like that. I've just
Mhm.
had the thought. And a lot of times it just comes and it's quick and it's done.
Mhm.
Like that, it's like I can see myself shooting myself in the head and then it's over.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
Mm.
And then I move on. It's like a stress release. That's how I had it before. But the last time that I had a suicidal thought, which was had to have been over a month ago, maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Like I went to a different place where I was thinking, what will I tell my children before I do this?
Wow.
And that scared me more than anything. But it
Yeah.
also made me think, like, what do I want to tell my children before I go?
Yeah. Mortality is terrifying to me. Like
It
just
is.
the idea, like when I was young, like really young, I came to like, oh wait, death is real. That's an actual thing that happens. Oh God, and I was really really scared. And then I kind of reached this sort of Zen bit where I realized that we're all gonna die. You only have so much control over it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's the point of being scared? And that got me through a while. But then when my
Yes.
dad died, just seeing him confront his mortality like that, um, I created like a genuine phobia of me, and I actually developed. I was always kind of a nervous individual, but I actual anxiety. I am on Paxil
Mm-hmm.
for that. And that's helped greatly actually. I talk to your doctor. Don't just find Paxil. I don't even know how you do that, but like, it's helped me greatly. Because yeah, just the idea that what we have is fleeting
Right.
scares the crap out of me.
Right.
And a film, and I'll get back on point, like a film like A Monster Calls, which understands so deeply the emotional experience surrounding the death of a loved one, um, really spoke to me and made me feel sad, but also better. It was somewhat cathartic,
Right.
like it just sort of just been like, this is something we all go through. This is something that is something sort of a universal part of the human experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad, but sadness in its own way is part of the universal experience as well. It is human and it is beautiful. And that movie helped me and it connected with me very personally and reminded me of some things that, frankly, are memories I don't have in some
Right.
cases. And that in and of itself was powerful. And I think some people look at a film like that and they go, oh, this is just emotional claptrap. It's
Sure.
emotional. People have called it emotional porn. And I'm like,
Whoa.
well, you go to when we call something pornographic, regardless of whether it has sex in it,
Right.
it's just you go to it just for that thing.
Okay.
Torture porn. You go to it for the violence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And indeed, there's a lot of great melodramas out there that exist to make you weep. When I was young, I didn't really see the value of that. And though, yeah, there's a lot of good and bad ones. Um, they exist for a reason. They're really useful. And sometimes the use for a work of art, the way that it applies to your life, isn't really obvious until you've gone through certain experiences, where you've gone and gotten older, and you have a different perspective on life itself. There's a lot of movies out there that when I saw as a kid, I didn't really get it.
Mhm.
And then here's a perfect example. Rosemary's Baby is a horror movie. You've all seen it or heard of it, about a woman who thinks she's pregnant, might be, a cult behind it, might be Satan's child. A lot of maybe not. But I was the youngest person in my family growing up. I was never around kids and babies and pregnant women. So I didn't really get it. Like, I didn't really see, like, I understood it. I got the gist, but I didn't really see how wrong it was. And it wasn't until I was an adult and I was around more people who were having children that I realized just how completely messed up everything happening to that woman is, how everything that is going exactly wrong and no one is listening. And I just, now that I had the experience, I got it. And it's a lot scarier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
should we crack a joke? Like, what do we? She said film therapy, and I was taking it seriously.
Thinking, like, another movie that's like will just punch you in the face, then in the gut, and then body slam you is the documentary Dear Zachary.
I have not seen that one. No.
Okay. Well, if you need some emotional porn,
it's interesting because I
watch that.
Oftentimes, there's two kinds of people I find. There are people who, when they are sad, they listen to sad music because it helps get the sadness out, and they get to live in their sadness for a bit, and then they feel better. And there are people like me who, when I'm sad, I listen to like bubblegum pop. I want to feel better. I understand that sadness is valuable, but I don't enjoy it. It's sad. So when I feel bad, I typically don't like rush to a movie.
Well,
like a
let's
Monster
get
Calls.
into what is a film that helps you through
It's
difficult times.
It's a good segue. It's a great segue. Yeah. Thank you. You're welcome. So there's a lot of movies that I've watched a lot of movies. There's a lot of movies I love. There's a lot of movies that give me a lot of joy. But when I thought about what is a movie that gets me through rough times, I think about movies that when I'm sad, I can put them on and I feel better. That's for me. There's a lot of different ways you can take this question. So the happiest movies that I can think of that I can recommend to you, dear audience.
Patience.
Step Up to the Streets. Step Up 3D. Step Up Revolution, and to a lesser extent, Step Up All In. Or as I like to call them, the Moose Chronicles.
Not the first one.
Well, the first one's fine, but the first Step Up movie is like what is to the Step Up franchise what Dr. No is to the James Bond franchise. Technically, it's there, but like all the things that you associate with it, all the things that make it what it is, they weren't really in place until Goldfinger. So it took like one film, which is an okay film. I like the first Step Up fine. It's one with Channing Tatum, and he's a tough kid on the streets of Baltimore, and he breaks into a fancy dance academy and breaks a bunch of stuff because he's a jerk. But then he ends up like helping out in like a dance recital and falling in love with the lady.
And in real life too.
In real life, he actually married his co-star. They're still together. And it's fine, but it's kind of just this sort of generic Dirty Dancing kind of riff.
Sure.
It's really nothing that special about it. It's kind of like, oh, there's dancing on the streets and there's proper ballet dancing, and there the twain shall meet, except right here, and we'll all learn a valuable lesson. And that's fine. In Step Up to the Streets, it starts getting nuts. Step Up to the Streets is like a bit more like a heist movie, where it's about a badass gang of like really hardcore dancers. They'll get on a subway. And they'll dance you.
That was great.
Oh, they'll dance you. They'll dance like nobody's business. But it turns out that one of them, played by Brianna Evigan, she might have danced too hard, and now she's gonna get moved away where she won't dance. So she's told by Channing Tatum, who comes back for one scene. It's a dancing trampoline fight.
Yeah, in a club.
In a club. They just remove stuff from the floor, and they happen to have trampolines there. What are the odds? And it's awesome. And he finds this crazy new way to take off his shirt in midair with a pipe. And he dances her until she agrees to go to like the dance academy he went to in the first film.
Yes.
And it's just, there's a lot of like, no, again, that sort of proper dancing, improper dancing kind of rhetoric. And she assembles a
trained versus untrained,
basically. And she assembles a league of extraordinary dancers. I like to think that the web series League of Extraordinary Dancers is in continuity because they have the same robot. We'll get to the robot. She assembles this team. They're going to dance in the streets. The streets is actually not actually the streets. The streets is like a name of a dance competition. And they dance. They videotape themselves breaking and entering, which I don't think was wise, but they do it anyway.
Right.
And then they dance in the rain with like incredible dance choreography that only works in the rain. And they had absolutely no way of knowing it could possibly be raining, but they did anyway. And it's so great.
They may have had that 10-day forecast.
It was so cool. And that one's great. And a lot of people like Step Up 2. Like a lot of people.
I liked it.
I interviewed Nick Frost, and he just went on and on about how much he loves Step Up 2. And then a lot of people maybe kind of fell off and didn't think much of the other ones. Step Up 3 is where it gets real.
And I haven't seen Step Up 3
Step
yet.
Up 3. Okay, so in Step Up 2,
3D.
Yes. In Step Up 2, we're introduced to a supporting character named Moose. Moose is like this sort of lanky, shy tech kid who it turns out can also dance like an MFer. I don't know if we can swear on this show. Can we?
I mean, you can.
Okay.
I'm not going to stop
He can dance like a motherfucker would dance if a motherfucker could dance that good. And so he graduates in the third film to protagonist, and Channing Tatum's character's adopted sister from the first film graduates to second lead. She set the second film out. It's so cool that they brought her back. She's Allison Stoner.
Girl, right?
Yeah, she's Allison Stoner. You may remember from a bunch of Missy Elliott videos. So it's all about him going to college in New York. He's not in New York for more than 5 minutes until he has dance fought a samurai, pissed off the cops, joins like a team of super dancers who have like a dancing danger room with like a wall of boom boxes over a club. He meets like a guy who may also be a robot because he does all the robot stuff, but he's never out of character. So I just assume he's actually
like
a robot.
On the street, like a gold man.
No, but he just is that guy.
Okay,
he's just that guy. And they do parkour, and they have a road warrior fight. A dance fight.
Gosh, I need to see
Road Warrior
right
dance
now.
fight. It ends with a big giant dance off with lasers. It's completely insane, and it is delightful, and the dancing's incredible. It's really, really great. That's one thing I think is worth mentioning is that there's a lot of like trick editing to try to hide the idea that a lot of the people who are in movies can't be choreographed very well. Like watch Chicago sometime and just see the editing gymnastics they had to do to make it seem like Richard Gere had any idea what to do with his feet. Okay. Here they can actually show it to you. These people are all trained dancers. The majority of the cast are dancers first, actors second, and it shows, and that's part of the charm. Step Up Revolution is about badass flash mobs. Like it opens with like this giant flash mob thing, and it's all about they got to try to get win a YouTube contest to get like 2 million hits. Like the first people to get 2 million hits to get like $1 million, but they're spending like all of this ridiculous amount of money on all these crazy flash mob things with like giant sculptures that they're making from scratch in the middle of the dance and stuff. And I'm just like, it seems like you had the money. I don't know. you say you're poor. That's the thing here. And they team up. They end up. There's a great line, as if they're the first people who ever thought of it. Enough with performance art. It's time for protest art. Like, ooh, you're the first person to do protest art. This is going to be exciting. What's next? And so they team up to start an evil
That's why it's revolution.
They team up to stop an evil hotel owner. Who he's not really evil. He's just kind of corrupt. He's trying to like gentrify the neighborhood. And his daughter is a professional dancer, but he's kind of ashamed of it. She just got out of college. You know, like that week, you know, like, all right, I sent you to dance school. Fair is fair. And then you had your fun with the dancing. Now you got to come run the hotel. And she's like, but I wanted to try make a career out of dancing. And he's like, okay, fine. And this is an actual like line from the movie. If you're not a professional dancer by the end of the summer, you come work for me. And I'm like, you have no idea how dancing works. That's hilarious. People work their asses off for their entire lives to become a successful dancer, and then they do it. So it's all a big to do. And then the cool part is that Moose comes back at the end to dance Miami back into submission, so that it's all great. I call that movie The Time Moose Saved Miami and the events that immediately preceded it. And then in Step Up All In, or as I like to call it, Step Up All In, all of those like leftover characters from throughout the franchise team up to do a reality TV dance show in Vegas, and the winner of the big Las Vegas dance show gets to have their own Las Vegas show.
Oh,
for, like,
so
a
it's
whole
kind of
year.
like when Randy Jackson had that dance crew on, America's Next Dance Crew on MTV.
No,
Oh, there was this great show. There was this
I'm not judging you. I just don't
show
know.
called America's, I think it's Next Dance Crew, and it was just these like dance teams going up against each other on MTV, and they would get judged, and
Yeah.
they were insane. You got to go back and watch this.
That
And they
sounds
would
cool.
get a Las Vegas show.
It would
the
not-
end winner would get a Las Vegas show.
It would not surprise me to learn that they got some of the same dancers, because like every
sure
time
of
I
it.
see dance stuff in anything,
Mhm.
like, oh, and here's like this weird kind of dancey intro for your Virgin flight safety regulations, and they'll
yeah,
have
I've
like
seen that
3
lately.
people from Step Up 3D just because they're like the
Yes,
best dancers
yes,
in the
they
industry.
do.
So that one's not as good. It's not as polished. Some of the dancing isn't as amazing, but there's like this really cool like Frankenstein sequence where they like bring people back to life
Yeah.
with the power of dance.
Of
And
course.
uh,
The Jabberwockies, they are awesome. Jabberwockies dance with a mask on.
There you go.
Incredible. They're probably in Step Up somewhere.
yeah. And to MK Songbird, I advertently described Trump. I think people forget that Trump has been like a cliche for many, many, many years. Like the idea of American avarice as personified by Trump, like the idea of Lex Luthor as a businessman, that was literally based on Donald Trump. Like go back, John Byrne and Marv Wolfman admit to that. So it's weird. It's really, really weird. But in any case, these movies are about saving the world through dancing, and they're convincing. That's why I love them. They're entirely committed to their own idea, and they're good enough. The dancing is good enough that you buy it. They are exuberant, they are lively, they are hopeful. And yeah, they're silly, but I would hesitate to call any of them bad. I think a lot of people sort of mistake cheesy for bad. Cheesy can be intentional. We're just not going to pretend we're not a silly movie about dancing, but we're going to try to be as emotionally honest as we can about it. And when I watch any of the Step Up movies, especially 2 through 5, but 1 is good too. I got nothing against it. It's just not one of the ones I watch when I'm sad. When I watch any of them, I feel better. I have a good time. There are wonderful people out there doing wonderful things because they think it's neat, and that's great. And that make me really happy. And I honestly, especially 2 and 3, are like kind of this like kind of weird little secret that like I've never talked to a serious film critic who has seen them, who didn't at least admit, yeah, they're kind of fun. Like serious film critics. I don't know if I'm gonna like out them here, but like some of the most famous film critics in the world I've talked to about these movies, and they're like, yeah, 2 and 3 are pretty good. I wish I had talked to you. I never met Ebert. That's sad. I wish I could have. But yeah, so they're fun flicks.
Have you seen America's Got Talent when they have that one? First of all, have you seen America's Got Talent?
Not really. I don't really watch a lot of reality TV.
Yeah.
It's pretty rare for me.
They did have this dance team that was like, it was a light, their costumes were a light up board. So it wasn't just like them, they dance in the dark.
Yeah.
But the stuff lights up and it tells a story. It's insane.
That's
I don't know
cool.
their names.
It sounds like they kind of ripped off a bit of Step Up 3D.
Or the opposite.
I'm not sure which one came first.
Opposite.
Well, it's actually kind of funny. Like a lot of the things that you see in Step Up 3D in particular are actually sort of riffs on actual dance battles. In fact, many of the people in Step Up 3D did a dance battle with Miley Cyrus at like the MTV Music Awards once.
Nice.
And like the audience was encouraged to like say who won or whatever like that. And the audience said who won, and then Miley Cyrus won anyway. And it was really great. But then they took like the song that like Miley Cyrus's crew danced to, Fancy Footwork by Chromeo, and they put it in Step Up 3D so they could own it. Like it was really great.
Nice.
Yeah. And great soundtracks too.
You'd think I would have seen these movies already.
You should have.
Because I am a dancer.
Oh, really?
But
that's cool.
I haven't. So I'm glad I was able to watch the first and the second one.
Yes.
When you leave, I'm going to watch the third one.
Good.
And then I'll go to
let me know what you thought.
And then
you got to let me know what you thought.
I will.
Okay,
I'm excited.
Good. I'm really glad.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Anything else
on this show?
Anything else?
That's it.
Oh.
Is there anything you'd like to tell the other patients in the waiting room where they can find you? All those good stuff.
I love the commitment to
growl.
growl. Everybody, thank you for watching, for thinking this was interesting. I hope you thought it was interesting. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at William Bibbiani. You can find my podcasts at B Movies Podcast and at Canceled Cast. That's canceled with one L. Both spellings are accurate.
Yes, they are.
But in particular, I really hope you check out Cancel Cast. I think it's one of the coolest things I'm doing right now. And then we're discovering a lot of great, crazy old shows, like the one about Donald Trump teaming up with a pirate ghost to solve crimes in a sci-fi superboat. That's a real thing. The 100 Lies of Blackjack Savage, Disney's dirty little secret. Oh my god. That's one of the weirdest episodes of anything I've ever done in my whole life. So you can find out all about that on Cancel Cast. You can see me on What the Flick, on the Young Turks Network, on YouTube. You can read my work at Crave Online. And I just thank you.
Thank
you very, very much. This has been very cathartic. And thank you everybody for joining in. I hope you had fun. I hope if you didn't see some of those movies, I hope you see them, and I hope you really like them. That's exactly why I do what I do.
I want to talk about the Step Up franchise with everyone that's listening to this right now. So find me on Twitter at Miss Movies. Tomorrow night, Wednesday, what day is this? The 24th? The 25th?
This is the 24th today.
Okay, so the 25th, I'll be on the Schmoes No Show.
Ooh.
So check me out there.
I keep asking them to have me back, and they never do. I haven't been on that show.
This is my first time.
I was on that show in like 2012.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
I just sort of forgot I existed. No, they're wonderful.
They don't.
No, they're wonderful. They're wonderful guys. We talk all the time. They're great. They're great. I wish I could be on their show more because they're really cool. So I'm sure it'll be a great show. Hopefully I get to watch it.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. We will see you next time. Bye. 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 Bye.